Kesh Varendol was smaller than I expected. Not physically. He stood well over 6 feet, broad-shouldered in that expensive suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. But there was something diminished about him when you really looked. Maybe it was the way his eyes never quite focused on anyone's face, always sliding to bodies, calculating value like he was mentally tallying inventory. Or maybe it was knowing what Theron had told me, that men like him built empires because they were too cowardly to exist in the real world where people fought back. He looked at me the way you'd look at a chair you were considering buying. I kept my eyes down, my posture submissive, every muscle in my body screaming to run while my brain reminded me why I was here. The girls behind Kesh, standing in that terrible line, they needed someone to see them, to remember them, to come back for them. So I stayed. Theron's hand brushed mine again, so subtle that anyone watching would miss it. But I felt it. That tiny point of contact that said, I see you, I'm here, we're in this together. Kesh stepped forward, his shoes clicking on the concrete floor in a rhythm that made my stomach turn. Theron. It's been too long since we've done business directly. I prefer to let Moravec handle the preliminaries. Theron's voice was ice wrapped in silk. But for a selection like this, I wanted to see for myself. Of course, of course. He gestured to the line of girls like a host showing off a wine collection. We've curated this showing specifically for our premium clients. Each girl has been thoroughly vetted, health screenings completed, backgrounds verified. He talked about them like they were products with warranties. I wanted to scream. Instead, I let my gaze drift across the faces in that line, memorizing. A girl with dark skin and braids who couldn't have been older than 18, eyes already dead. Another with blonde hair and a scar across her cheek, flinching every time someone moved too quickly. A third who looked Southeast Asian, so thin her collarbone jutted out sharply, holding herself so still she might have been carved from stone. And at the end of the line, a girl who couldn't have been more than 19, with auburn hair and freckles, who was crying silent tears that she kept trying to wipe away before anyone noticed. That one broke something in my chest. You brought your purchase, Kesh said, finally looking at me directly. Unusual. Moravec mentioned you requested this. I'm training her, Theron said smoothly. Teaching her to recognize quality. To understand her place in the hierarchy. The words made my skin crawl even though I knew they were an act. Kesh smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made you want to shower. An excellent teaching method. Showing her that she was lucky to be chosen by someone of your caliber rather than ending up with. He gestured vaguely at the other buyers, men who'd started circling the line like sharks. Lesser owners. Precisely. Theron moved forward, studying the girls with the cold assessment she'd perfected. Tell me about inventory turnover. How often do you refresh the selection? And just like that, she had him talking business. I listened while trying not to listen, my brain cataloging information while my heart broke for every word. The operation moved girls every 6 weeks. The warehouse was just a showing room. They kept the inventory at 3 separate locations across the city. Security had been upgraded after some incident 6 months ago that Kesh glossed over, but Moravec's expression said had been significant. Theron asked about customization options, delivery schedules, bulk pricing. She played the role so perfectly I almost forgot it was a role. Almost forgot that every clinical question was really gathering information on how to burn this whole thing down. I'm particularly interested in that one. Theron pointed to the girl with auburn hair who was still crying. But the emotional instability concerns me. Kesh waved a hand dismissively. Fresh acquisition. 3 days. She'll settle or she won't. If she doesn't, we have methods of adjustment. My hands clenched into fists behind my back. Show me, Theron said. Kesh's eyebrows rose. Show you. The adjustment methods. I prefer to know what I'm purchasing has been properly prepared. If I'm paying premium prices, I want to ensure the product won't require extensive additional training. There was a pause. Moravec stepped forward, something like concern crossing his features. Miss Theron, that's not typically part of the showing process. Then perhaps I should take my business elsewhere. Theron's voice could have frozen fire. I was under the impression this was a premium operation. Was I mistaken? The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Every buyer stopped their circling. The muscle men shifted uncomfortably. Kesh's smile became fixed, his eyes calculating. "Of course not," he said finally. "Though I must admit, in 20 years of running this operation, no buyer has ever requested to observe the adjustment process. I'm not most buyers." They stared at each other, two predators assessing threat levels. Then Kesh laughed, the sound scraping against my ears like rusted metal. "No, you certainly aren't." "Very well. Moravec, take Ms. Thierin and her girl to observation room 3. Show her how we handle the more resistant acquisitions." He turned back to the other buyers. "Gentlemen, please continue your evaluations. I'll rejoin you shortly." Moravec looked like he wanted to protest. Instead, he nodded stiffly and gestured for us to follow. We walked through the warehouse, down corridors I remembered from my own time here, the smell of concrete and fear soaking into everything. Thierin walked slightly ahead of me, her posture radiating authority and control. I followed 2 steps behind, playing my part. But I was counting. Doors. Security cameras. Exit signs. Guards and their positions. Every detail that might matter when we came back to tear this place apart. Moravec stopped at a door marked with nothing but a number 3. "I should warn you, what you're about to see isn't pleasant." "I didn't expect it to be," Thierin said. "That's rather the point." He unlocked the door. The room beyond was small, concrete on all sides, with a drain in the center of the floor and hooks on the walls that made my stomach turn. There was a girl inside, maybe 22, with dark hair and defiant eyes, chained to a chair. She had bruises on her arms, a split lip, and when she saw us, she spat at the floor. "This one's been resistant," Moravec said, his tone almost apologetic. "Won't accept her situation. Keeps trying to escape." Good for her, I thought. Keep fighting. Thierin circled the girl slowly, examining her like a piece of artwork. "How long has she been here?" 2 weeks. "And she's still fighting. That shows spirit. Some buyers would pay extra for that." Moravec's expression shifted to something calculating. "We hadn't considered that angle." "You should." Thierin stopped in front of the girl, and for just a second, I saw her expression shift. Not the cold mask she wore for Kesh and Moravec, but something else. Something that looked like recognition and respect. Some clients enjoy the process of breaking someone down. The challenge of it. The words made me sick even knowing they were tactical. The girl in the chair looked up at Thierin, and I saw the moment she made her own assessment. Her eyes flicked to me, then back to Thierin, and something passed between them that I couldn't quite read. "Do you usually chain them?" Thierin asked. "When necessary." "And the adjustment process?" Moravec hesitated. "Depends on the level of resistance. Isolation. Food deprivation. Physical discipline when required." "How physical?" "Nothing that leaves permanent damage." "We're not monsters, Miss Thierin. We run a business." I nearly choked on the audacity of that statement. Thierin's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Of course," she said. "Business. Which is why I need to know the inventory I'm considering has been properly managed. This one." She gestured to the girl in the chair. "How much for her?" "As is, still resistant." Moravec blinked. "You want to purchase her in this state?" "I have specific clients who prefer the challenge. Breaking someone yourself rather than receiving them already broken. It's a different market segment." The girl in the chair went very still, her defiant eyes now calculating. She was smart, I realized. She'd figured out something was different about this interaction. Moravec pulled out a phone, typed something. "I'd need to confirm with Kesh, but given the extra effort she's required, I'd estimate 8,000. "Done." Just like that. Thierin's smile was all teeth. "Just like that. Have her delivered to the address on file. Tonight, if possible. I have clients arriving tomorrow who would be very interested." Moravec looked between Thierin and the girl, confusion warring with greed. "Greed won. I'll make the arrangements. Will you be selecting from the main showing room as well?" "Yes." The auburn-haired one who was crying. "How much for her?" "That one's premium. 7,000. "Fine. I'll take them both. Transfer will be completed within the hour. $15,000 in less than 5 minutes. Moravec's eyes practically glowed with commission calculations. Ms. Thierin, it's always a pleasure doing business with someone who knows exactly what they want. Let me confirm with Kesh, and we'll have your purchases prepared for transport. As he pulled out his phone to make the call, Thierin moved closer to the girl in the chair, ostensibly examining her more closely. But I saw her hand move, saw her slip something small into the pocket of the girl's torn shirt. A gesture so quick and subtle that if you blinked you'd miss it. The girl's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. She felt it. Whatever Thierin had given her. We left the room, following Moravec back toward the main showing area. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. Thierin had just bought 2 more people. Just spent $15,000 like it was nothing. Just slipped something to a chained girl in a concrete room. What was she doing? Back in the main showing room, Kesh was holding court with the other buyers, but he broke away when he saw us approaching. Moravec tells me you've made selections. 2, Thierin confirmed. The resistant one from Observation 3 and the auburn-haired girl from the main line. I trust that's acceptable. Kesh's smile widened. More than acceptable. Though I must say, taking the difficult one is unusual. Most buyers want them already compliant. I'm not most buyers, Thierin repeated. And I have particular clients with particular tastes. Of course. Kesh gestured to one of his muscle men. Prepare both purchases for transport to Ms. Thierin's address. Standard delivery protocols. As the man moved to carry out the orders, Kesh turned his full attention to Thierin. You know, we don't often get buyers of your caliber. Most of our clients are, shall we say, enthusiasts with limited resources. But you have the means and the sophistication to truly appreciate what we offer. I appreciate quality, Thierin said. And efficiency. Which is why I'm interested in establishing a longer-term arrangement. I could practically see Kesh's pupils dilate at the prospect. What did you have in mind? A standing order. 1 or 2 acquisitions per month, depending on my client's needs. Premium selections only. I'll pay above market rate in exchange for first access to new inventory. Moravec had returned to Kesh's side, and I saw him actually lick his lips. This was the kind of client they dreamed about. Consistent. High-paying. No questions asked. That would be, Kesh paused, recalculating. That would be very agreeable. Shall we discuss terms in my office? I'd prefer to handle details through Moravec. I find direct negotiations with upper management can sometimes complicate ongoing business relationships. Thierin's smile was perfectly calibrated. No offense intended. None taken. Kesh gestured to Moravec. Then I'll leave you in his capable hands. Welcome to our premium client list, Ms. Thierin. I have a feeling this is the beginning of a very profitable relationship. Welcome back to my channel, lovelies. If you're watching this and realizing just how deep Thierin is going into this operation, make sure you hit that like button. And drop a comment telling me if you think her plan is brilliant or if she's getting in too deep. Because what happens next is going to blow your mind. We spent another 30 minutes discussing logistics with Moravec. Delivery schedules. Payment methods. Security protocols for high-value transactions. Thierin played her role perfectly, the wealthy buyer with specific needs and unlimited resources. I stood silently behind her, the obedient purchase, learning her place. But I was watching everything. The way Moravec's fingers flew over his phone, likely updating databases. The casual mention of the 3 storage locations, 2 in the industrial district and 1 in what he called the estate. The way security rotated shifts every 6 hours. The fact that new acquisitions were held for 72 hours before being entered into the main inventory system. Every piece of information was a weapon we could use later. Finally, Moravec extended his hand to Thierin. Your purchases will be delivered within 2 hours. I'll be in touch next week about potential new inventory. I look forward to it. We walked out of that warehouse the same way we'd walked in, but everything had changed. We'd been inside the operation. We'd seen the systems. We'd met the monster. And Thierin had just bought 2 more people who needed saving. The drive back to the house was silent. Thierin's hands gripped the steering wheel so tight her knuckles went white. I wanted to ask what she'd slipped to the girl in Observation Room 3. Wanted to ask what her plan was now. Wanted to ask if she was okay. But I didn't. Because I could see the tension radiating off her in waves, and I knew she was holding herself together by a thread. We pulled into the garage. The door closed behind us. And Theron just sat there, staring straight ahead, not moving. Theron, I need a minute. I waited. The silence stretched. Then she slammed her hands against the steering wheel, hard enough that I jumped. 23 years, she said, her voice raw. 23 years since I got out, and it's exactly the same. The way they talk. The way they look at people like they're furniture. The fucking drain in the floor of that room because they hose it down after they're done. She wasn't crying. I almost wished she was. Instead, she was shaking with rage so intense it was terrifying. That girl. The one in the chair. She looked exactly like I did. Same defiance. Same calculation behind the anger. Same fucking futile hope that if she just fought hard enough, someone would notice she was human. You noticed, I said quietly. You bought her. You're saving her. Am I? Theron finally turned to look at me, and her eyes were haunted. Or am I just playing their game better than they do? Spending money on human beings. Treating it like a transaction. Becoming exactly what I hate to fight what I hate. You're not like them. How do you know? The question was almost desperate. How do you know that the line between me and Kesh isn't just about which side of the transaction we're on? I reached across the center console and took her hand. She startled at the contact, like she'd forgotten I was there. Because Kesh wouldn't hate himself for doing this, I said. Because you can barely hold yourself together after pretending to be someone who'd buy people. Because you slipped something to that girl, something I'm guessing was information or a way to contact you. Because you're destroying yourself from the inside out trying to save people you've never met. Her fingers tightened around mine. I gave her a phone number. Burner line. Told her to text help when she arrived and I'd activate the tracker I also slipped her. See? Not like Kesh. I'm trafficking people, Sayer. Even with good intentions, I'm literally purchasing human beings and having them delivered to my house. To save them. To get them out. And what happens when they arrive? Her voice cracked. What do I tell two traumatized girls who think I'm just another buyer? How do I explain that no, actually, I'm one of the good guys, trust me. I hadn't thought about that. The logistics of having two people delivered who thought they'd been sold into another nightmare. We tell them the truth, I said. We tell them they're safe. We show them what you showed me. Which is what? A week of silence and confusion. No. What you showed me is that there's someone willing to fight for people like us. Someone who understands. Someone who survived the same thing and came out the other side determined to make sure no one else had to go through it. Theron closed her eyes. I'm so tired, Sayer. So fucking tired of carrying this. Of knowing it exists and knowing I have to do something about it and knowing that no matter what I do, there are hundreds more I can't reach. So we reach the ones we can. To tonight. More later. We burn it down piece by piece until there's nothing left. She opened her eyes, looked at me with something that might have been wonder. How are you so strong? I'm not. I'm terrified. But I'm also angry, and right now anger is more useful than fear. She almost smiled. Almost. Then her phone buzzed. Message notification. Delivery confirmation, she said, reading the screen. They'll be here in 90 minutes. We should prepare. We went inside. Vecra was waiting in the kitchen, and one look at Theron's face told her everything she needed to know. How many? She asked simply. 2. Arriving soon. Both traumatized. One's been fighting, which means she's been hurt. The other's fresh, only 3 days in, which means she's still in shock. Vecra nodded like this was a normal conversation. I'll prepare the guest rooms on the 5th floor. Medical supplies. Definitely. And food, but nothing too heavy. They probably haven't been eating well. I'll handle it. As Vecra headed upstairs, Theron turned to me. I need you to be there when they arrive. When they see you, someone who came from the same place, it might help them understand faster. What do I say? The truth. That you were bought. That you thought it was over. That it wasn't. She paused. That sometimes the people who buy you are trying to save you, not own you. The next 90 minutes were a blur. Theron changed out of her business suit into something softer, less intimidating. I stayed in the comfortable clothes I'd worn under my coat. We prepared a room on the main floor, somewhere neutral, not threatening. Vecra brought down blankets, water, simple foods. They're going to be so scared, I said, watching Theron arrange chairs to be as non-confrontational as possible. I know. That's why you're here. You're proof that this isn't what they think it is. I'm proof that you're not a monster. But Theron, I spent a week thinking you might be. They're not going to trust us immediately. I'm not expecting them to. I'm just hoping they'll listen long enough to understand. The doorbell rang. We both froze. They're here, Vecra called from upstairs. Theron took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and walked to the front door. I followed a few steps behind. Through the frosted glass, I could see two figures with a man in a suit between them. Delivery, just like they'd promised. Like they were dropping off furniture. Theron opened the door. The man was one of Moravec's muscle, someone I'd seen at the warehouse. He had a hand on each girl's arm, holding them firmly but not violently. Professional delivery. Ms. Theron. Your purchases, as requested. Both have been sedated for transport, should be wearing off soon. Here are the documentation packets. He handed over 2 folders. Anything else you need, just call Moravec directly. That won't be necessary, Theron said, taking the folders without looking at them. Release them. He let go. Both girls swayed slightly, still affected by whatever they'd been given. The auburn-haired one who'd been crying looked around with wide, drugged eyes. The dark-haired one from the chair, no longer restrained but clearly still hurting, stood with defensive tension despite the sedation. Pleasure doing business, the man said, then turned and walked back to his van like he'd just delivered a pizza. The door closed. The 4 of us stood in the foyer. 2 girls who thought they'd been sold. 2 women who'd bought them to set them free. And no easy way to bridge that gap. My name is Theron, Theron said quietly. I know you're scared. I know you think you know what's about to happen. But I need you to listen, because everything you think you know is wrong. The auburn-haired girl started crying again, silent tears streaming down her face. The dark-haired one's eyes darted around, calculating distances to doors, to windows, to anything that might be escape. I was you, Theron continued. 23 years ago, I stood where you're standing. I was bought. I was terrified. And I survived. And I have spent every day since then trying to make sure what happened to me doesn't keep happening to others. Then why buy us? The dark-haired girl's voice was hoarse, probably from screaming. Why participate in the thing you supposedly hate? Because the system won't let me save you any other way. Because if I didn't buy you, someone else would have. Someone who actually wanted to use you the way you're afraid of being used. Bullshit. The girl's eyes were hard. You're just telling us what we want to hear. Making us compliant. I stepped forward. Look at me. Both girls' attention snapped to me. I was sold 7 weeks ago. Stood on that same auction block. Wore the same red dress they probably made you wear. Got bought by her. I gestured to Theron. And for a week, I thought exactly what you're thinking. That this was a trick. That the kindness was just another kind of cruelty. That any second, the real horror would start. What changed your mind? The auburn-haired girl asked, her voice barely a whisper. She told me the truth. Showed me what she was really doing. Gave me a choice to help or to leave. And I chose to help because I saw the girls still there. The ones who didn't get bought by someone planning to save them. The dark-haired girl's expression flickered with something. Not trust, but maybe the possibility of trust. I don't believe you, she said, but there was less conviction in it. You don't have to, Theron said. Not yet. But I'm asking you to stay long enough to see if we're telling the truth. Stay tonight. Eat something. Sleep in an actual bed without chains. And tomorrow, if you still think this is a trick, I'll give you money and put you on a bus to anywhere you want to go. No conditions. No strings. Why would you do that? The auburn-haired girl asked. Because you're not property. You never were. And I'm not going to keep you here against your will. The only difference between me and the people I'm trying to destroy is that I'm giving you a choice. They looked at each other, these 2 girls who'd been through hell, trying to decide if this was another version of the same nightmare or actually a chance at something different. What's your name? I asked the dark-haired girl. She hesitated. Names were power. Names were identity. Names were the things they tried to take from you. Riven, she said finally. And you? I looked at the auburn-haired girl. Coral. Okay, Riven and Coral. I'm Sayer. And I know you're scared. I know you don't trust us. I know every instinct you have is screaming that this is a trap. But I'm asking you to fight those instincts for one night. Just one night. See if we're lying. And if you're not? Riven asked. If all of this is real, what then? What do you want from us? Thieren's expression was steady. I want to destroy the people who did this to you. I want to burn that warehouse to the ground and make sure Kesh Varendol never hurts another person. And I'm asking if you want to help me do it. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. Then Coral laughed. It was a broken sound, edged with hysteria. You want us to help you take down Kesh? You're insane. Probably, Thieren agreed. But I'm insane with resources, planning, and a very specific set of skills acquired over a lifetime of surviving people like him. So yes, I want your help. But only if you choose to give it. Riven's eyes narrowed. What did you slip me in that room? A phone number and a tracker. The number so you could call for help if you needed it. The tracker so I could find you if they moved you somewhere I couldn't reach. You were planning this. Before you even bought us. I've been planning this for 18 months. Buying you is just the latest phase. Riven processed this, her tactical mind clearly working. You're using us as assets. I'm offering you revenge, Thieren corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Assets don't get to choose. I'm giving you a choice. They stared at each other, these two survivors of the same horror, one older and armored in wealth and planning, one younger and armored in fury and defiance. One night, Riven said finally. We'll stay one night. Eat your food. Sleep in your beds. And tomorrow we'll decide if you're full of shit or if this is actually real. Fair enough. Thieren stepped back, giving them space. Vecra will show you to your rooms. Bathrooms attached, clothes provided, doors lock from the inside. You're safe here. Vecra appeared as if summoned, her grandmother's face showing nothing but gentle welcome. This way, girls. Let's get you settled. As they followed her upstairs, Coral wobbling slightly from whatever they'd been sedated with, Riven turned back to look at us one more time. If this is a trick, she said, I'll kill you in your sleep. If this is a trick, Thieren replied, I'd deserve it. They disappeared up the stairs. The house fell silent. Thieren collapsed into a chair, all the strength draining out of her like someone had pulled a plug. That went better than I expected. Better? She threatened to kill you. She's thinking tactically, assessing resources and threats. That means her survival instinct is still strong. That's good. Thieren rubbed her face. God, I need a drink. I'll join you. We ended up in her office, the same place where she'd told me the truth 7 weeks ago. She poured whiskey with shaking hands, passed me a glass, and we sat in silence for a long moment. 2 more, I said finally. 2 more safe. For now. They're not safe until Kesh is gone. Until the whole operation is ash. Until every name in those files is answered for. So we make that happen. You say that like it's simple. It's not simple. But it's necessary. And we're not alone anymore. I gestured upstairs. Riven's smart. Did you see the way she was cataloging everything? And Coral, she's tougher than she looks. 3 days in that system, and she's still crying instead of shutting down. That takes strength. Or it's trauma. It's both. But we can work with both. Thieren looked at me over the rim of her glass. When did you become the optimistic one? When I realized being angry and hopeful at the same time was possible. We can burn it all down and build something better in the same breath. Sayer. She said my name like a prayer. What are we doing? What do you mean? This. Us. You're 20 years old. You should be out living your life, not planning to take down human traffickers with a 40-year-old woman who's killed more people than she can count. Maybe. Or maybe this is exactly what I should be doing. Maybe some people are put in positions where they have to choose between staying safe or fighting for others who can't fight for themselves. And maybe I'm choosing to fight. You didn't choose this situation. No. But I'm choosing what I do with it. That's the only choice that matters. She set down her glass, leaned back in her chair, studied me with those dark eyes that saw too much. You're remarkable. Has anyone ever told you that? Heat flooded my face. You might have mentioned it once or twice. I'm going to mention it again. Because it's true. And because I need you to know that none of this, none of what we're doing, diminishes the fact that you deserve better than this life gave you. So do you. I'm 40. I've made my peace with what I am. Have you, though? I leaned forward. Because from where I'm sitting, you're still punishing yourself for surviving. Still believing that killing that man when you were 17 made you irredeemable. Still thinking that the only way to be worth something is to save everyone else. Her expression shuddered. I don't want to talk about this. I know. But maybe you need to. What I need is to focus on the plan. On getting enough information to take down the operation. On keeping you and Riven and Coral and everyone else safe while doing it. Theron. Don't. She stood up abruptly. Don't try to save me, Sayer. I'm not one of the girls from that warehouse. I'm the person doing the saving, not the one who needs it. Everyone needs saving from something. Not me. I'm too far gone for that. She walked out, leaving me sitting there with my whiskey and the weight of everything unsaid between us. I knew what was happening. I'd known for weeks, maybe longer. The way my heart sped up when she walked into a room. The way I found excuses to be near her. The way her smile, rare as it was, made me feel like I'd won something precious. I was falling for her. Which was ridiculous. Impossible. She'd bought me. The power dynamic alone made it wrong. Add in the 20-year age gap and the fact that we were both trauma survivors trying to execute a dangerous plan, and it was a disaster waiting to happen. But my heart didn't care about logic. And the worst part? I was pretty sure she felt something too. I saw it in the way she looked at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. In the careful distance she maintained, like she was afraid of getting too close. In moments like just now, where she'd rather run than confront what was growing between us. I drained my whiskey and went upstairs to check on Riven and Coral. I found them in the hallway, doors to their rooms open, talking in low voices. They stopped when they saw me, defensive walls going back up. Just wanted to make sure you had everything you needed, I said. The rooms are nice, Coral admitted quietly. Really nice. The kind of nice that makes me think this might actually not be a trick. It's not. Why should we believe you? Riven asked, but there was less hostility in it than before. Because I'm going to tell you something I haven't told anyone except Theron and Bekra. Something that will make sense of why I'm here and why I'm doing this. They waited. I was in the system for 2 years before Theron bought me. 2 years of being passed around, used, broken down, and built back up just to be broken again. I tried to escape 4 times. Failed every time. And on the day of that auction, I'd decided that if whoever bought me was bad enough, I'd find a way to end it. Permanently. Coral's hand went to her mouth. Riven's eyes hardened with understanding. So when Theron brought me here and then did nothing, I thought it was the cruelest trick yet. Giving me hope just to destroy it. But it wasn't. She really was trying to save me. And now I'm trying to help her save others. Not because I owe her, but because I know what it's like to think there's no way out. And I want to be proof that there is. What if we don't want revenge? Coral asked. What if we just want to forget it ever happened? Then Theron will still give you money and help you disappear. She meant what she said. You're not prisoners here. And if we do want revenge? Riven's voice was cold. If we want to watch that whole fucking place burn with everyone in it, then we teach you how to light the matches. Riven smiled, and it was terrifying. Good. Because that girl they had me chained next to before I got moved? She was 14. 14. And she'd been there for 6 months. My stomach dropped. Where is she now? I don't know. They moved her somewhere else 2 days ago. Said she'd been sold to someone overseas. I felt sick. We'll find her. Theron's tracking the whole network. If she's findable, we'll find her. You promise? I promise we'll try. That's all I can promise. Riven nodded slowly. Okay. Then I'm in. Whatever the plan is, I'm in. Me too, Coral said quietly. I only spent 3 days there, but it was enough. If I can help make sure no one else goes through that, I want to help. I felt something shift in my chest. We weren't just 2 people anymore. We were 4. 4 survivors who'd decided to fight back. Then tomorrow we start planning, I said. Tonight we rest. Eat. Sleep. Recover. Tomorrow, we become something they won't see coming. What's that? Coral asked. An army. The next morning, Thierin called us all to the dining room. Riven and Coral came down hesitantly, still not entirely sure this was real. But they came. Vekra had made breakfast. Real breakfast. Eggs and toast and fruit and coffee and orange juice and everything that said you're safe now, you're allowed to eat, this is yours. Riven ate like someone who didn't know when the next meal was coming. Coral picked at her food, her stomach probably still twisted with stress. But they were there. They were trying. Thierin waited until they'd eaten before speaking. I meant what I said last night. If either of you want to leave, I'll help you. Money, documents, whatever you need. No questions asked. But if you're willing to stay, I can offer you something else. What? Riven asked. Purpose. Training. A chance to take everything they did to you and turn it into a weapon against them. Thierin spread files across the table. This is Kesh Varendol's operation. 3 main holding facilities. 6 satellite locations. A network of buyers across 4 countries. Politicians on the payroll. Police who look the other way. And an annual revenue of approximately $40 million, all built on the suffering of people like us. Coral stared at the files. That's impossible to fight. Not impossible. Just difficult. Which is why I've been planning this for 18 months. Gathering information. Building resources. Waiting for the right moment. Why wait? Riven asked. If you've been planning for 18 months, why not just take them down? Because doing it wrong means they rebuild. Doing it right means complete destruction. No remnants. No survivors to start up somewhere else. I need every piece in place before I move. And we're pieces? Your allies. If you choose to be. I watched them process this. The scale of it. The audacity of one woman declaring war on an empire built over 20 years. What do you need from us? Riven asked finally. Information. The places you were kept, the people you saw, the procedures they followed. Coral, you said you were only in for 3 days. Where did they hold you before the showing? A house. I don't know where exactly. They kept us locked in bedrooms on the 2nd floor. There were maybe 8 other girls there. Thierin pulled out a map. Can you point to a general area? Anything you remember about the drive from the house to the warehouse? Coral studied the map, her face scrunched in concentration. We went over a bridge. I remember because I thought about jumping. And there was a water tower, shaped like an old-fashioned coffee pot. Thierin's eyes lit up. That's the industrial district. East side. She marked the map. Riven, you mentioned they moved you. From where to where? Started in a warehouse that smelled like fish. Then the place with the concrete rooms. Then to the showing warehouse. 3 facilities. That matches what Moravec told me about the 3 main locations. Thierin was scribbling notes, cross-referencing with her existing files. Did you see how they transported people between locations? Vans. White panel vans with no windows. 2 guards per van, girls sedated for transport. Security at each location? Armed guards at every entrance. Cameras in hallways, but not in the rooms, probably for plausible deniability. Shift changes every 6 hours. I watched Thierin's face light up with the kind of focus that meant her tactical brain was firing on all cylinders. This was what she lived for. Not the violence, but the planning. The careful construction of a strategy that would bring the whole thing down. This is good, she said. This helps. But I need more. I need schedules, patterns, weak points. I might be able to help with that, Riven said slowly. When I was in the fish warehouse, there was a girl who'd been there for months. She talked about how deliveries came every Tuesday and Thursday. How the night shift was always understaffed because the owner was cheap. What happened to her? Riven's face went dark. She got sold. To some man from overseas who wanted someone already broken. She cried the whole time they were processing her paperwork. The room fell silent. Her name was Lisa, Riven said quietly. She was 19. She told me she'd had a scholarship to art school before they took her. And now she's gone and I don't know if she's alive or dead or suffering somewhere I can't reach. Thierin's expression was carved from stone. Then we add her to the list of reasons we burn it all down. We spent the next 3 hours going over everything. Every detail Riven and Coral could remember. Every pattern, every person, every weakness in the system. Theron cataloged it all, adding to the files she'd been building for months. By lunch, we had a clearer picture than ever before. The operation was vast, but not impenetrable. Kesh was powerful, but not untouchable. And we, for survivors with nothing to lose and everything to gain, were going to take him apart piece by piece. "What's the first move?" I asked when we finally took a break. Theron looked at each of us in turn. "The first move is training. All of you. Self-defense, tactical awareness, how to gather information without being noticed. If we're going to do this, we do it right. And that means being prepared for everything." "How long will that take?" Coral asked. "As long as it takes. We have one chance at this. If we fail, if even one person in that organization escapes, they'll rebuild and we'll have accomplished nothing except putting targets on our backs." "I'm okay with a target on my back," Riven said. "I'm less okay with failing." "Then we don't fail." Theron's smile was sharp as broken glass. "We train. We plan. And when we're ready, we strike so hard and so fast that they never see it coming." The next few weeks were intense. Theron hired trainers. Self-defense instructors who taught us how to turn our size and perceived weakness into advantages. Tactical experts who showed us how to observe, how to remember, how to spot the details that most people missed. Even a technology specialist who taught us about cameras, security systems, and how to avoid or disable them. We trained every day. Riven took to it like she'd been born for combat, all that rage finding productive outlets in learning how to actually fight back. Coral was slower, more careful, but persistent. She might not have Riven's natural aggression, but she had determination that wouldn't quit. And me? I discovered I was good at observation, at reading people, at spotting the micro-expressions that gave away what someone was thinking. Theron said I had a natural talent for it, probably developed from years of reading abusers to stay safe. Between training sessions, we continued gathering information. Theron had contacts everywhere, people who owed her favors or feared her enough to talk. Slowly, methodically, we mapped the entire operation. The houses where they held girls. The routes they used for transport. The buyers who frequented the showings. The police who'd been bribed to ignore reports. It was overwhelming. Horrifying. And absolutely necessary. 6 weeks after Riven and Coral arrived, Moravec called. "Miss Theron, I have new inventory that might interest you. Premium selections. Would you be available for a private showing next week?" Theron had put him on speaker. We all listened as she considered. "What's the occasion?" she asked. "Private showings are usually reserved for bulk buyers. Let's just say we've acquired some particularly valuable merchandise that we're offering to our top clients before the general market." "How valuable?" "College girls. Taken from a campus upstate. Fresh, educated, minimal trauma so far. Perfect for clients with more sophisticated tastes." I felt sick. Riven's hands clenched into fists. Coral had gone pale. "I'm interested," Theron said, her voice giving away nothing. "When and where?" "The estate. Saturday night at 8. I'll text you the address. I'll be there." After she hung up, Theron looked at us. "This is it. The estate is the third location, the one we haven't been able to access. If he's inviting me there, it means I've earned enough trust to see the heart of the operation." "College girls," Coral whispered. "They're taking them from colleges now?" "They take from everywhere," Theron said grimly. "Anywhere they think they can grab someone without too much attention. Homeless shelters. Addiction recovery centers. Immigrant communities. College campuses where girls disappear and people assume they just dropped out." "How many do you think they took?" Riven asked. Moravec said plural. "At least 3, probably more. We have to save them." "We will. But we have to be smart about it. The estate is going to have better security than the warehouses. More guards. More sophisticated systems. We go in unprepared and we all end up dead or worse. So what do we do?" I asked. Theron pulled out fresh files, started making notes. "We prepare. I go to the showing. You 3 stay here, safe. I gather as much information as possible about the estate's layout, security, routines. Then we plan the extraction." "No. All three of us said it simultaneously. Thierin looked up surprised. No, she repeated. You're not going alone, Riven said. We're in this together. It's too dangerous. If something goes wrong, you'll need backup, I interrupted. You can't take on the entire operation by yourself. Sayer's right, Coral added quietly. And you said we needed to gather information. 3 sets of eyes see more than one. Thierin looked between us, seeing not 3 victims she'd saved, but 3 partners who decided to fight beside her. You realize, she said slowly, that going to the estate means going deeper into the operation than we've ever gone. It means playing the role even more convincingly. It means being surrounded by the worst kinds of people doing the worst kinds of things. And it means if we're discovered, there's no easy way out. We realize, Riven said. We're doing it anyway. I can't take all 3 of you. That would be too suspicious. Then take Sayer, Coral said. She's been your purchase the longest. It makes sense she'd be with you. Riven and I can stay here and monitor communications, be ready to call for help if needed. Thierin looked at me. Sayer, I thought about walking back into that world. Seeing more girls standing in lines. Watching Thierin pretend to be someone who bought human beings. Facing Kesh and Moravec and all the monsters who made this possible. I'm in, I said. Whatever you need me to do. Her expression softened, just for a moment. You're sure? I'm sure. We started this together. We finish it together. If you're still watching this and your heart is racing with everything that's about to go down, drop a subscribe because part 3 is going to be the most intense chapter yet. Comment below and tell me if you think they're ready for what they're about to face, because I'm not sure they are. The days leading up to Saturday were a blur of preparation. Thierin drilled me on what to look for, what to remember, how to appear observant without seeming observant. We practiced scenarios. What if someone asked me a direct question? What if they wanted to separate us? What if they discovered what we were really doing? For every scenario, Thierin had a plan. And a backup plan. And a backup to the backup plan. You're spiraling, I told her on Friday night, finding her in her office at 2 in the morning, surrounded by maps and notes and half-drunk coffee. I'm preparing. You're terrifying yourself with hypotheticals. Better to be prepared for hypotheticals than surprised by reality. I sat down across from her. Talk to me. What's really scaring you? She was quiet for a long time. I'm scared I'm going to get you killed. That my need for revenge is going to put you in a position you can't escape from. That I've convinced you this is possible when really it's just an elaborate suicide mission disguised as a plan. You don't really believe that. Don't I? Sayer, we're 4 people. 4. Against an organization with unlimited resources, political connections, and a 20-year track record of making problems disappear. What makes you think we can actually win this? Because we have something they don't. What's that? Nothing left to lose. They're fighting to protect what they've built. We're fighting because the alternative is living in a world where they get to keep doing this. That's a different kind of motivation. She studied me across the desk. When did you get so wise? Probably around the same time you bought me and accidentally gave me hope. I'm still not sure that was wise. It was the wisest thing you've ever done. And tomorrow, we're going to prove it. Saturday came too fast and not fast enough. I dressed in something expensive and revealing that Thierin had bought for exactly this purpose. Armor again. A costume that said I was property owned, broken in. I hated every second of putting it on and knew it was necessary. Thierin wore another one of her perfect suits, this one dark blue, almost black. She looked like money and power and danger all wrapped together. In the car on the way to the estate, she took my hand. If anything feels wrong, she said, if your instincts scream at you that we need to leave, you tell me. I don't care if we're in the middle of a conversation with Kesh himself. You say the word and we're gone. What's the word? Copper. I thought about the girl with copper hair who'd jumped from a 17th floor balcony. The one Thierin hadn't saved in time. Okay, I said. Copper. The estate was exactly what I expected and somehow worse. A massive property surrounded by high walls and gates with armed guards. The house itself was a mansion, all modern architecture and expensive landscaping. Beautiful and utterly soulless. We were stopped at the gate. Guards checked Theron's ID against a list, looked in the car, studied me with dead eyes that had seen too many girls in the same situation. Miss Theron, you're expected. Park in the circular drive. Mr. Varendol will meet you inside. The gates opened. We drove through. The circular drive was filled with expensive cars. Range Rovers and Mercedes and BMWs. The buyers had arrived in force. Theron parked, took a deep breath. Remember. Observe everything. Memorize layouts. Count security personnel. Note any girls you see and try to remember their faces. We're gathering intelligence. Got it. We walked toward the entrance. The door opened before we reached it, Moravec standing there with his professional smile. Ms. Theron. So glad you could make it. And you brought Sayer. Excellent. Kesh will be pleased to see how well your training is progressing. I kept my eyes down, my posture submissive, every muscle screaming to run. Inside was even more opulent than the exterior suggested. Marble everywhere. Art that probably cost millions. And everywhere, the undercurrent of something rotten beneath the beauty. Moravec led us through the house, and I counted. Doors. Windows. Security cameras. Guards posted at intervals. Everything Theron had taught me to notice. We entered a large room that might have been a ballroom in another life. Now it was something else. Something worse. The room was filled with buyers, maybe 30 of them, all men, all with that same predatory energy. And along the walls, in small alcoves, stood the girls. So many girls. More than I'd seen at any single showing before. They ranged in age from maybe 16 to mid-20s, all wearing identical white dresses that made them look like virginal sacrifices. All standing perfectly still with eyes downcast. My stomach turned. And then I saw them. In the far alcove. 5 girls who looked different from the others. Cleaner. Less broken. Newer acquisitions. The college girls. One of them had blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. Another wore glasses that had probably been taken away and then given back for aesthetic purposes. A third had a sports team tattoo on her ankle. They were someone's daughters. Someone's friends. Someone who had no idea they'd been taken. Theron's hand found mine again, squeezed once. She'd seen them too. Kesh appeared from a side door, resplendent in what was probably a designer suit, smiling like he was hosting a garden party instead of a human trafficking operation. Welcome, everyone, to this exclusive showing. Tonight, we have something special. Premium merchandise, carefully curated for our most valued clients. He began his pitch, and I stopped listening to the words and started listening to the information beneath them. He mentioned transport schedules, security protocols, processing procedures, all things we needed to know. Beside me, Theron's brain was clearly cataloging everything, filing it away for later use. Now, Kesh continued, I know you're eager to make your selections. Please circulate. Examine the merchandise. And when you've decided, speak with Moravec about pricing and delivery. The buyers began moving through the room, and I watched in horror as they inspected the girls. Touching. Commenting. Discussing them like they were cars or furniture. Theron pulled me toward the alcove with the college girls, playing her part. We stopped in front of the blonde with the ponytail. Up close, I could see she was shaking. Terrified, but trying to hide it. This one, Theron said, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. Tell me about her. Moravec appeared beside us. Ah, excellent choice. 21 years old, studying biology at the State University. No family to speak of, so no one is actively searching. Clean medical history. Acquired 4 days ago. 4 days. This girl had been at college 4 days ago, and now she was standing in a mansion being sold to the highest bidder. What's her resistance level? Theron asked. Moderate. She's been compliant so far, but we assess she's still in shock. Once that wears off, we anticipate she'll require adjustment. The girl's eyes flickered up, met mine for just a second. In that moment, I saw everything. Terror. Disbelief. Desperate hope that someone would help. I wanted to scream that we would. That we were here to save her. That she just had to hold on. Instead, I looked away, playing my part. I'll take her, Theron said. And that one. She pointed to the girl with glasses. Package deal. Moravec's eyes lit up with commission calculations. For you, Miss Thierin, I can make that happen. 16,000 for both. Done. Just like that. $16,000. 2 more people bought. As Moravec went to process the transaction, the blonde girl's eyes filled with tears. She thought she'd just been sold to someone who'd use her the way she feared being used. I wanted to tell her the truth. Wanted to whisper that it would be okay. Wanted to break character and ruin everything just to take that look of hopelessness out of her eyes. But I didn't. Because doing that would doom all of them. Thierin moved through the room, asking questions, gathering information, playing the wealthy buyer so convincingly it made my chest hurt. She purchased 2 more girls before the evening was over. For total, $16,000 each. $64,000 in human beings. When the showing finally ended, when we'd gathered every piece of information we could, when I thought I couldn't maintain the act for one more second, Thierin made our excuses and we left. In the car, I fell apart. Not crying. Not screaming. Just shaking so hard my teeth rattled. Thierin drove in silence until we were miles away from the estate, then pulled over and held me while I came undone. You did so well, she whispered. So well. I'm so sorry I had to ask that of you. There were so many. My voice came out broken. So many girls. And we only bought 4. We bought 4 tonight. We'll save more later. We'll save all of them. How? Thierin, how do we save all of them when there are new ones coming in every day? By cutting off the head. By destroying the organization so completely that it can't regenerate. I pulled back, looked at her. When? Soon. We have the information we need now. The layout of the estate. Security patterns. Transport schedules. Everything. We just need to finalize the plan. And then we burn it all down. We drove home in silence. Riven and Coral were waiting, anxiety written across their faces. How bad? Riven asked. Bad, Thierin said. But informative. We got everything we needed. We also bought 4 more people, I added. They'll be delivered tomorrow. Coral's eyes widened. 4. 2 college students. 2 others. We couldn't leave them there. That's 8 of us now, Riven said slowly. 8 survivors. 8 people who want that place destroyed. 8 people who can make it happen, Thierin corrected. But first, we need to help the new arrivals understand what's happening. Sayer, I'll need you tomorrow when they're delivered. You're becoming our ambassador to the newly purchased. I can do that. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing those girls' faces. The blonde with the ponytail. The one with glasses. All of them standing in those alcoves like offerings to some terrible god. Around 3 in the morning, I gave up and went downstairs. Found Thierin in her office, as expected, surrounded by maps and plans. Can't sleep either, she asked without looking up. Too much in my head. Come here. Help me with this. I moved around the desk to see what she was working on. It was a detailed map of the estate, with notations about guard positions, security systems, vulnerable entry points. When we go back, she said, and we will go back, we're going in to take everyone. Not buy them. Take them. Which means we need to disable security, neutralize guards, and evacuate potentially dozens of girls without raising an alarm until we're far enough away that they can't stop us. That's impossible. Probably. But we're doing it anyway. She looked up at me. I've been thinking about what you said. About having nothing left to lose. And you're right. I've spent 23 years building this life, these resources, all with the intention of using them for something that mattered. This is what matters. And if I lose everything making it happen, that's acceptable. Not to me. She blinked. What? Losing you isn't acceptable to me. The words came out before I could stop them. You talk about this like you're willing to die for it, and maybe you are, but I'm not willing to lose you. Sayer. Don't. Don't tell me why it doesn't matter. Don't tell me I'm young and I'll move on. Don't diminish what I'm feeling just because it's inconvenient or complicated or inappropriate given how we met. She stood up slowly, came around the desk to where I was standing. We were close now, close enough that I could see the silver threading through her black hair, close enough to count the faint scars on her hands. What are you feeling? She asked quietly. You know what I'm feeling. I need you to say it. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I'm falling for you. Have been for weeks. Maybe since the moment you told me you bought me to save me. And I know it's complicated and probably wrong and definitely the worst timing in the history of bad timing, but I can't help it. Sayer, you're 20 years old. I'm 40. I bought you. So you've mentioned. Repeatedly. Is that your way of saying you don't feel the same, or your way of talking yourself out of feeling what you actually feel? She closed her eyes. Both. Neither. I don't know. Theron. Look at me. She opened her eyes, and I saw everything there. The want. The fear. The belief that she didn't deserve anything good. I'm falling for you too, she admitted. Have been since the night you confronted me in my office demanding answers. Maybe before that. But Sayer, I can't act on it. The power dynamic is complicated. But I'm not powerless. You've given me choices every step of the way. Given me the option to leave. Treated me like an equal partner in this plan. The only person who thinks there's a power imbalance is you. I bought you. To save me. Not to own me. There's a difference. The age gap is 20 years. So what? We're both adults. We're both survivors. We both understand trauma and healing and choosing to fight instead of giving up. That matters more than birth certificates. I've killed people, Sayer. 32 that I remember and probably more that I don't. And every single one of those deaths was in service of survival or protection. You're not a monster. You're someone who did what she had to do to stay alive in an impossible situation. She looked at me like I was something precious and terrifying. I don't know how to do this. How to want something good. How to believe I deserve it. Then let me believe it for both of us. At least for tonight. I reached up, touched her face, gave her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. Instead, she leaned into the touch, her eyes closing like it had been years since someone had touched her with gentleness instead of violence. This is a terrible idea, she whispered. Probably the worst. We're in the middle of planning to take down a human trafficking ring. Terrible timing. You deserve better than someone as broken as me. I deserve someone who sees me and fights for me and believes I'm worth saving. You're all of those things. She opened her eyes, looked at me with an intensity that made my breath catch. Then she kissed me. It was gentle and fierce and desperate all at once. Her hands in my hair, mine gripping her shoulders, both of us trying to pour weeks of unspoken feelings into a single moment. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against mine. This doesn't solve anything, she said. I know. We still have to take down Kesh and save those girls and probably survive multiple attempts on our lives. I know that too. And after, if there is an after, we have to figure out how to be actual people instead of just survivors on a mission. We'll figure it out. Together. She pulled back enough to look at me. Together. I like the sound of that. Me too. We spent the rest of the night in her office, planning the operation that would either save dozens of lives or end our own. But now we did it side by side, her hand occasionally finding mine, both of us knowing that whatever happened next, we weren't facing it alone. The 4 new girls arrived the next morning. Theron and I met them at the door, along with Riven and Coral, who'd become our welcoming committee for the newly purchased. The blonde with the ponytail and the girl with glasses we'd seen at the estate. And 2 others, both looking shell-shocked and terrified. We went through the same process we'd gone through with Riven and Coral. The explanation. The proof. The offer of choice. By now we had it down to a system. All 4 chose to stay. All 4 wanted revenge. That evening, 8 of us sat around Theron's dining table that seated 20. 8 survivors. 8 fighters. 8 women who'd decided that enough was enough. We move in 1 week, Theron announced. I have teams in place for simultaneous hits on all 3 main facilities and the 4 satellite locations. Our job is the estate. We get the girls out while the other teams handle the warehouses. What about Kesh? Riven asked. Theron's smile was sharp as a knife. Kesh is mine. We spent that week training harder than ever. The 4 new girls, Marin, the blonde, Finch, Glasses, Alara, and Bryn, learned fast. They had to. We didn't have time for gradual progression. And every night, after training was done and plans were reviewed, Theron and I would find time alone. Sometimes just talking. Sometimes more. Learning each other in the spaces between preparing for war. What happens after? I asked her one night. After we take down the operation? After everything. After the dust settles. After we've saved everyone we can save. What do we do then? She was quiet for a moment. I don't know. I've spent so long focused on this that I haven't let myself think about after. Think about it now. I think, she said slowly, that I'd like to build something. Not just destroy. Maybe a foundation for trafficking survivors. Resources for rebuilding lives. A place where people like us can find help without judgment. I'd like that too. And I think I'd like to try being happy. Genuinely happy. With you. If you'll have me. I kissed her instead of answering with words. The night before the operation, none of us could sleep. We gathered in the living room, all 8 of us, and talked about what came next. I'm scared, Finch admitted. We all are, Theron said. Fear is rational. What we're about to do is dangerous. People could get hurt. We could fail. But we might succeed, Marin added. We might actually pull this off. We will pull this off, Riven corrected. Because failure isn't an option. Those girls at the estate, the ones we couldn't buy, they're counting on us whether they know it or not. What if we're not ready? Coral asked quietly. We'll never feel ready, Theron said. But we're as prepared as we can be. We have the plans. The resources. The determination. And most importantly, we have each other. She looked around at all of us, 8 women who'd survived hell and come out fighting. Tomorrow, she continued, we take back our power. We save lives. And we show men like Kesh Varendol that we're not victims. We're not products. We're not property. We're warriors. And we will not be stopped. The room erupted in fierce agreement. That night, Theron held me close. If something goes wrong tomorrow, nothing will go wrong. Sayer. If something goes wrong, I need you to promise me you'll get out. You and the others. Don't try to save me. Just get to safety. I'm not promising that. Sayer. No. We started this together. We finish it together. Whatever happens, we face it together. She kissed my forehead. You're remarkable, you know that? You've mentioned it a few times. We fell asleep wrapped around each other, knowing that tomorrow everything would change. The next day dawned bright and clear, and we loaded into vehicles with teams Theron had assembled. Ex-military. Security experts. People she'd worked with before who owed her favors or believed in the cause enough to risk everything. Our team consisted of 12 people total. 8 of us. 4 professionals. We drove to the estate in silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. The plan was simple in concept, complex in execution. Theron had bribed one of the guards to leave a side gate open at exactly midnight. We'd enter there, split into 3 teams. 1 to disable security. 1 to evacuate the girls. 1 to find and neutralize Kesh. I was on Theron's team. The one going after Kesh. At 11:58, we gathered at the side gate. It was open as promised. We slipped through like ghosts. The estate was enormous, and we knew from floor plans that the girls were kept in the East Wing. Team 1 headed that way. Team 2 went for the security office in the main house. And our team, Theron, me, Riven, and one of the ex-military guys named Garrett, headed for Kesh's private quarters on the 3rd floor. We moved through the house silently, avoiding cameras we knew were there, disabling the ones we couldn't avoid. Everything was going according to plan. Until it wasn't. We were halfway up the stairs when alarms started blaring. Not the fire alarm. Not a general security alert. The kind of alarm that said intruder detected, lockdown protocols activated. Someone had betrayed us. Abort! Garrett yelled. Get out now. But Theron was already running up the stairs. The girls. We can't leave them. I ran after her. Riven followed. Garrett cursed and came too. We burst into the East Wing just as Team 1 was evacuating girls through a side door. Dozens of them, all in those white dresses, all terrified. Go! Theron shouted. Get them out. We'll buy you time. Guards were pouring in from the main entrance. Armed. Angry. Led by Moravec. Did you really think you could just walk in here? He called out. Did you think Kesh was stupid enough not to have contingencies? I think Kesh is arrogant enough to believe he's untouchable, Theron called back. And I'm here to prove him wrong. The shooting started. I'd never been shot at before. The sound was deafening. Riven pulled me behind a column as bullets chipped marble around us. Garrett returned fire, his military training evident in every movement. Theron was advancing on Moravec, using furniture and architectural features as cover. Where is he? You'll never reach him. This building is locked down. The only people leaving are in body bags. Then you better start measuring yours. She moved like water, flowing from cover to cover, closing the distance. I tried to follow, tried to help, but Riven held me back. She knows what she's doing. We helped by keeping the others off her back. More guards appeared. Too many. We were outnumbered 3-1 at least. But then something miraculous happened. The girls stopped running. The ones Team 1 had been evacuating, they stopped. And they turned around. And they came back. Dozens of them. Dozens of women who'd been sold and broken and used, and they came back to fight. They didn't have weapons. But they had numbers. They had rage. They had nothing left to lose. It was beautiful and terrible and the most inspiring thing I'd ever seen. The tide turned. Guards who'd been advancing suddenly found themselves surrounded by furious women who'd decided they were done being victims. Moravec's expression shifted from confident to uncertain to afraid. Theron used the chaos to slip past him, heading for the stairs to the 3rd floor. I broke away from Riven and followed. "Sayer, no!" Riven shouted. But I was already gone. I caught up with Theron at the base of the stairs leading to Kesh's quarters. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Coming with you." "Absolutely not. It's too dangerous." "Then it's too dangerous for you too. We do this together. Remember?" She looked like she wanted to argue. Then the look in my eyes must have told her it wouldn't work. "Together," she agreed. "But you stay behind me." We climbed the stairs. The door at the top was locked, but Garrett had equipped Theron with breaching tools. She made quick work of it. Inside was exactly what you'd expect. Opulent. Expensive. The kind of luxury built on suffering. And in the center of the main room, sitting in a leather chair like a king on a throne, was Kesh Varendol. He wasn't afraid. That was the thing that struck me most. He should have been terrified. His operation was being torn apart floor by floor. His guards were losing to a bunch of women they'd victimized. Everything he'd built was crumbling. And he just sat there, smiling. "Theron," he said pleasantly. "I wondered when you'd show your true face." "You knew." "Of course I knew. You think someone with your resources buying that many girls wouldn't raise flags? I've been waiting to see what your plan was. And you let me gather information anyway. I let you think you were gathering information. Everything you saw, I allowed you to see. The question is, why? Why risk everything for people you don't even know?" Theron moved closer, a gun in her hand I didn't even know she'd been carrying. "Because I was one of those people. Because 23 years ago, someone like you sold me to a monster. And I promised myself that if I survived, I'd make sure no one else had to go through what I went through. And how's that working out?" His smile widened. "You've saved what, a dozen girls? 2 dozen? Congratulations. There are hundreds more being trafficked right now in operations I don't even touch. You've accomplished nothing except painting a target on your back. I've accomplished getting into the same room as you. That's enough." She raised the gun. "Don't," I said. Both of them looked at me. "Don't kill him," I continued. "That's too easy. That lets him escape consequences." "Sayer." "No. Listen. If you kill him, he's a martyr. A criminal who got murdered by a vigilante. His operation might take a hit, but others will rebuild. But if we take him alive, if we hand him over to the authorities with all the evidence you've been gathering, he goes to prison. He loses everything. He lives with the knowledge that he failed." Kesh's smile finally faltered. "She has a point," he said, but there was less confidence in it. "Though you're assuming the authorities aren't already on my payroll." "Some are," Theron agreed. "But not all. And the ones who aren't have been waiting for enough evidence to move against you. I've been providing it to them for months. Federal agents are probably already executing warrants on your properties as we speak." The sound of sirens in the distance confirmed it. Kesh's expression finally cracked. Fury replacing confidence. You'll never make it out of here. I'll make sure of it. You're not in a position to make sure of anything, Theron said. Your operation is done. Your guards are defeated or fleeing. Your properties are being raided. And you're about to spend the rest of your life in a cell, knowing that a bunch of women you considered product took you apart piece by piece. Federal agents burst through the door, weapons drawn. Hands up. Everyone hands up. We complied. Theron dropped her gun, kicked it away. We raised our hands. These two are with us, one of the agents said, looking at Theron. But Kesh Varendol, you're under arrest for human trafficking, kidnapping, and about 40 other charges I'll read you when we get downtown. They hauled him out of the chair, cuffed him, read him his rights. And through all of it, Kesh stared at Theron with impotent rage. This isn't over, he spat. For you, it is, Theron said calmly. For those girls you tortured and sold, it's just beginning. They get to rebuild their lives. They get to be free. And you get to rot. As they dragged him away, Theron turned to me. Are you okay? I'm perfect. Are you? She started laughing. Not happy laughter, but the kind that comes from surviving something impossible. We did it. We actually did it. Not just us. Everyone. All of us together. We went back downstairs to find controlled chaos. Federal agents everywhere. Medical personnel attending to injured girls. And in the middle of it all, Riven and Coral and Marin and Finch and the others, all standing together, all still alive. 8 of us had walked into this house planning to save dozens. And we had. Over 60 girls were being evacuated to safety. 3 major trafficking facilities had been raided simultaneously. Dozens of buyers and employees were being arrested. It wasn't everything. It wouldn't save everyone. But it was something. It was enough to matter. As we walked out of the estate, watching federal vehicles haul away people who'd made careers out of suffering, Theron took my hand. What now? She asked. Now we start living. Actually living, not just surviving. Together. Together. The epilogue came 6 months later, in the form of a foundation opening. Theron had used her resources to create a support center for trafficking survivors. Housing, therapy, job training, legal assistance. Everything someone needed to rebuild a life. All 8 of us worked there. Riven ran security. Coral handled counseling. Marin managed operations. The others filled various roles, each contributing their unique skills. And Theron and I ran it together, partners in every sense of the word. We never did find all the girls. Some were lost to international markets we couldn't reach. Some didn't survive long enough to be saved. But we found many. And every single one who walked through our doors found safety, support, and a path forward. Kesh went to prison for life. Moravec turned state's witness and got 20 years. The entire operation was dismantled, prosecutions ongoing. It wasn't a perfect ending. Real life doesn't have those. But it was better. It was hope. And late at night, when Theron and I would lie in bed talking about the future, I'd think about how I'd been told I was worth $3,000. Turns out, I was worth so much more than that. We all were. The end of part 2. If you made it all the way through this emotional journey, you need to hit that subscribe button right now because part 3 is going to show them building their new lives together and facing one final threat they never saw coming. Comment below and tell me what you thought of this chapter, and like this video if you're ready for the conclusion of Sayer and Theron's story.